Hey, everybody. It's a Monday, a Black Monday, right? The day after the season ends, people get fired. We've already had our first firing, at least from the Browns' perspective. There's been others in other teams. Browns DC Joe Woods has been fired on this Monday morning. It is January the 9th, 2023. Will Kevin Stefanski be gone? I doubt it. Will Mike Prefer be gone? Doesn't sound like it. Where do the Browns go from here? We'll talk a little bit about their loss to the Steelers, but really, it's full steps ahead. Full steps, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It's a military thing, and I can't think of it. Full speed ahead. There you go. Full speed ahead to 2023, and a kick in the pants for 2022. A lot to get to on today's Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Well, here we are. Another season gone for the Browns and another season of no postseason. The Browns finished dead last in the AFC North with a record of 7-10. Kudos to the Steelers, who didn't make the playoffs, thankfully. But kudos to them. I embarrassed myself by saying they would be under 500 again. And once again, Mike Tomlin made me look foolish. Never bet against Mike Tomlin. I should have known the rule. And once again, for the second year in a row on a roster that was not over 500 worthy, he got them over 500. Now, they're not. I don't know that they're in any better shape long term than the Browns, but we know they've got a good head coach, and we don't know what we have in Kevin Stefanski. A lot to get to today. Starts with the Browns firing Joe Woods. It had to happen. The Browns' defense was a disaster. It was bad in his first year. It was bad at the beginning of last year. It really improved the second half of last year and then completely went down the tubes this year. There was no excuse. Joe Woods should have been fired in season. There was no reason it should have waited till after the season. The Browns come off as a very passive organization, which is weird. Or I shouldn't even say a passive organization because Jimmy Haslam's not been passive at all. In fact, he's been aggressive to a fault this point in his Browns ownership tenure. However, they were very passive when it comes to very passive in terms of Kevin Stefanski running the ship for the Browns. They're a passive offense. They're a passive defense. They're passive at making decisions. I don't know why Mike Prefer hasn't been fired. I'm really not sure about that. I will admit part of my disdain for Mike Prefer is because of comments he made years ago in another organization. And I know some of you will roll your eyes. Some of you don't care. That's fine that you don't care, right? I was okay with Deshaun Watson being on the Browns, even though I don't think Deshaun Watson's a particularly good guy. That's the world we live in. That's sports. Not everybody's a good guy. But if you're not getting the job done, then and you're not likable, and I don't like the comments that Prefer made years ago, his homophobic comments. I don't give a rat's ass that he's from here. He's been here. Now this was his fourth season with the Browns. He was here the year before Kevin Stefanski got here. He hasn't done a good job. I'm assuming he will be back because they fired Joe Woods this morning. I would assume that if they were going to fire him, they would have fired him today as well. Because obviously the decision to fire Joe Woods was not made this morning. It was made who knows when, but sometime at the very least in the last week. Mike Prefer should be gone. He won't be. I don't know what they're going to do in terms of the rest of the staff. Now, I know a lot of people want Kevin Stefanski fired. And I said, yesterday on Twitter, and on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show's final post-game show of the season, I said that I'm done defending Stefanski. I think a lot of people took that as if I wanted Stefanski fired. That's not necessarily the case. I'm not much of a fence rider generally. I'm really torn about Kevin Stefanski. When I say I won't defend him, it means, if he gets fired, I get it. And if he doesn't get fired, I get it. I have lost faith in Kevin Stefanski. I've lost some faith. Do I think there's a chance Kevin Stefanski's a decent head coach? I still think there's a chance, but I do not feel nearly as confident as I did. I would have no problem if he got fired. I'm willing to be open-minded to giving him one more shot, but and that's going to happen because there's no, I mean, unless something changes in the next week or two, or they have an opportunity to get a proven head coach like a Sean Payton, or which is unlikely, or who knows. Whoever it might be, Sean McVay. Again, these things, the odds of those guys coming to the Browns are about 1,000 to 1. So I'm not betting on that. But things going to change. If Kevin Stefanski's going to be back, A, they've fired the defensive coordinator. Okay, that's a start. B, they should fire Mike Prefer, the special teams coach. I've now said that 1,000 times, including once before today. That hasn't happened, and my guess is if it doesn't happen today, that's not happening at all. But it's not just that. It's the way this whole team is run. Now, the triumvirate of Paul DePodesta and Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, they're all in lockstep with how to run an organization. I'm a pro analytics guy. I laugh at the people that are field goal truthers that are scared by the word analytics. I've talked about this a million times. I believe in the numbers. I believe in using them. But as one of the great analytics guys once said, Theo Epstein, I don't remember the exact quote, but basically until he realized that, hey, it's not just about the numbers, it's got to be about the people too. It's not just about the X's and O's, it's also about the Jimmies and Joes. You've got to have a balance. Now, I'm not saying the Browns aren't, but if they're not, they need to be. There needs to be a huge change. We've had too many players doing their own thing, too many players complaining. There's a bad culture here. When these guys took over, when Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski took over this franchise 3 years ago, they talked about smart, tough, and accountable. Those were the words they used over and over again, and I don't see any of those things with the Browns. Just because those guys are smart, the team is not a smart team, the team is not a tough team, and nobody's accountable here. That's a big problem. Where is the accountability? Okay, we've put some accountability on Joe Woods. Well, Kevin Stefanski, you got a lot of work to do, and so does Andrew Berry, because your job's on the line. Now, it looks like for now they're going to survive. Again, the season just ended 12 hours ago. For the Browns, a little more than that, the regular season at least, and so things could change. But you figure if they fire the DC. They would have fired the head coach and fired everybody today. That didn't happen. Okay, so I'm going to assume that Kevin Stefanski is going to be back. You may like that. You may not like that. Doesn't matter. If he's back, he's back. Okay, so what do we do? Where do we go from here? What do we change? Well, first of all, there's an organizational philosophy of where we're spending our money. I think the Browns have clearly made some mistakes here. I think they've outlaid too much money to the offensive line, as important as it is. I mean, look, the offensive line was playing like crap. We're spending a ton of money on all these guys. They've outlaid almost no money to the front seven outside of Myles Garrett. You've put a ton of money into tight end, which you overpaid. You extended Jack Conklin. I have no idea why. Maybe he'll be back to being a Pro Bowl caliber player next year. I hope so, because he hasn't been for 2 years. The Browns, intrinsically, I don't even know if I'm using that word properly, to be honest with you. But the Browns, I look at their roster, and I think we get caught up in the names. And the problem with the Browns roster is it's too top-heavy, which sounds counterintuitive because you want to have stars. It's important. The problem is if the stars don't play like stars and then all you got is duds, well, that's a problem, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Like, the Browns have a few sexy names on defense, and then what else do they have? Yeah, there's my pup. All right, Crashy, why don't you lay down? There you go. I'll pet you while I do the podcast. All right, buddy. The Browns, you look at some of these other teams defensively, and I think it's important to have balance and depth. I think on the defense especially, it can be more important than having stars. But if you sign stars to big contracts, your highest paid guys, they've got to play great. If they don't, you're screwed. And that's what happened. Denzel Ward didn't play great. David Njoku was okay. Your offensive line didn't play great second half of the year. Yeah, Bitonio was really good, but nobody else played great this year. Pocic did. He played well when he was out there, but he doesn't get paid much. You look at some of these highly paid guys, John Johnson, Denzel Ward, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin. These guys didn't do much. And Deshaun Watson. Now, in terms of Deshaun Watson, he was not good. You can't hide behind that. Do I expect him to be a superstar quarterback? Of course I do. Why would I be in favor of this trade? You have to assume he's going to be a superstar quarterback. If it doesn't happen, the Browns are screwed. They're screwed. There's no other way to put it. If Deshaun Watson doesn't play like a star next year, he's got to be a top 10 quarterback. Now, the goal is for him to be a top 5 quarterback, which he, at the very least, was borderline top 5 3 years ago. But that was 3 years ago with a different team and a different coaching staff and different players around them. Now, the Browns have talent here. They've got to add some more. They need some speed in the wide receiver room. There should be enough talent for him to succeed. The offense has got to change. Kevin Stefanski's got to get his head out of his ass. They can't be running 3 tight ends all the time. There's got to be some creativity to this offense. There's got to be some misdirection. Guys in motion. Let's see something. Let's see something besides the same nonsense. All right, Christian. Changes have to happen. And Deshaun Watson can't just be good. He's got to be great. You spend that kind of money on a quarterback, I got zero problem with it. I'm not one of these knuckleheads saying, $252 million for this? I'll say that next year. The Browns had to trade for Deshaun Watson. The Browns were not in the game with Baker Mayfield. If you have a subpar quarterback, you have to be perfect. The Browns are not perfect. The Niners walk that fine line every year. They got a great defense. They got great. The Niners roster is as good as it's been in forever. And maybe they'll win it this year with a rookie quarterback. Maybe. I'm still betting against them. And they've got an excellent coach with an excellent defense, with a great running back, with great wide receivers. They got everything else great except for quarterback. Now, the kids played really well, so maybe they will win. And maybe he is going to be a great quarterback. Maybe he's the next great young quarterback. They traded up for Trey Lance. They kept Jimmy G. Maybe Brock Purdy's, maybe he's the next top 10 quarterback that comes out of nowhere. It happens. And he's played very well. But for the most part, the teams that are consistently in contention have top 10 quarterbacks. There's not many exceptions to that rule. The 3 best teams in the AFC, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals. 3 best quarterbacks in the AFC. There you go. Who else made the playoffs in the AFC? The Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence. Great second half. On the rise. First overall pick. Chargers. Justin Herbert. Everybody loves him. Put up big numbers. Finally got to the playoffs. Dolphins made it in by the hair of their skin of their teeth. If Tua doesn't play, they're done. See ya. Ravens barely held on without Lamar. Didn't play well without Lamar. Maybe they'll beat the Bengals. It's a division game. You never know. If Lamar plays, they got a shot. I don't think they're going to win, but maybe I'm biased. Look at the NFC. Jalen Hurts played great. Dak Prescott, borderline top 10 guy. Giants going anywhere in the playoffs with Daniel Jones? I doubt it. We'll see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong here. Deshaun Watson's got to be a top 10 quarterback. They paid him like a top 10 quarterback. He's played in the past like a top 10 quarterback. But I'm not going to be a phony here. I'm not going to rip Baker for the last 2 years and tell you Deshaun Watson played well and made excuses. We all know he hasn't played for 2 years. But none of us were saying he was going to be. Nobody, no matter how much time he missed. And if he gets back to being great next year, we'll just say, hey, we should have known he was going to suck last year. But none of us thought it'd be this bad. And you can make all the excuses you want. The dyed-in-the-wool homers are going to come up with every excuse in the book. Here's the bottom line. You could make any excuse you want, give any reason you want. Deshaun Watson, over 6 games, was bad. Period. That's it. But he doesn't have this, but he didn't do that, but he didn't have that. Don't want to hear it. He was bad. To me, it means nothing for next year. But he was bad. Let's not debate this because there's no debate. And if that doesn't change, if I'm wrong and most of you who think he's going to be really good, if we end up being wrong and he's never the same guy again, the Browns are screwed. That's simple. Today's episode brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. You know, by the way, I didn't really talk about yesterday's game at all. The Browns were just hideous in that game. The offense sucked. The defense sucked. I'm just glad the Dolphins pulled out that game. Getting that field goal at the end and the safety to put it away. Because if the Dolphins had lost, the Steelers would have been in the playoffs. Patriots don't go. You think the coach is more important than the quarterback? Even with the best coach in football, the Patriots haven't gone to the playoffs. Didn't go to the playoffs this year. Went last year. They haven't won a playoff game without Tom Brady in 3 years. Think that's going to change anytime soon? I don't. Now, the Patriots finished 8-9. They got a really good defense. They don't have a quarterback. 8-9. Jets, great defense. Everybody got hyped on them. Don't have a quarterback. 8-9 or 7-10, wherever they finished. They finished the same record as the Browns. But this organization just has so much to do this offseason. Because right now, the Browns got a long way to go, not only to catch up with the top of the AFC, but to just catch up with this division. Because even when Deshaun Watson got suspended, nobody thought the Browns would finish 2 games behind Pittsburgh for the worst record in the AFC North. Nobody. Maybe somebody, not many. This is a tough division. It's not getting any easier. Joe Burrow's not going anywhere. Lamar Jackson's probably not going anywhere. They won 10 games and Lamar Jackson missed 5. Now, I don't think the Ravens are all that good. I think they're going to lose in the first round. But they're ahead of the Browns. I think the Browns, long term, I don't think they're really behind the Steelers because they have Watson, and I'm not completely sold on Kenny Pickett. But they've got Mike Tomlin. They've got a proven good coach. He finds a way to get W's. That's the bottom line. We've heard the same song and dance for Kevin Stefanski for 3 years. It's not good enough. I don't want to hear anything about it. He's the most wins by the Browns, this and that. I don't care about any of it. This team has got to be in the playoffs next year. There's no excuse. And by the way, it won't be easy. It won't be easy. The teams that are the 7 teams that made the playoffs this year. Now, every year we know there's teams that don't make the playoffs the year before that do the next year fine. But at least on paper, of the 7 teams that made the playoffs, Buffalo, Miami, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Kansas City, and the Chargers, how many of those teams do you expect to be significantly worse next year? I don't know if it's any of them. Maybe Baltimore, depending on the Lamar situation. Maybe Miami. I'm not a big Tua believer. The other 5, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Kansas City, and the Chargers, those teams are going nowhere. They got good young quarterbacks, all 5 of them. And that's not including Pittsburgh. That's not including the Jets if they find a decent quarterback with their really good defense. There's a lot of good teams in the AFC. It's tough. I put out the Browns. I tweeted out this morning a list of the Browns' opponents. And once I have a bunch of people responding, oh, cakewalk, cakewalk? Cakewalk? There's no such thing as a cakewalk for the Browns. And how is this a cakewalk? First of all, you got 6 games in the division are tough. The other home games, the Jaguars, they played great the second half of this year. You got the 49ers, the Jets aren't bad. And then on the road, in addition to the division, okay, yeah, it looks pretty weak in terms of the road games. But what if Russell Wilson bounces back next year? I don't think it's going to happen, but anything's possible. The Seahawks were decent this year. The Rams should be better. I mean, I don't know what to say. Well, I know what to say. I need to take a break. All right, quick break and a lot more to do coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about Bet Online. Gambling now legal in the great state of Ohio, and betonline.net, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowls, basketball, World Cup. They've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today, or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay. Again, the big news of the day, Joe Woods has been fired. Long overdue. Will Mike Prefer be next? My assumption is no. Otherwise, they both would have been gone. Is Kevin Stefanski going to be gone? My guess is no. Otherwise, it probably would have happened already. But, hey, listen, it's only the first day. Things can change. By the way, let me take a look at the final PFF grades are in. I think they came in this morning for the season. And I think Jacoby Brissett, he probably finished in the top 10 at quarterbacks. What is going on? Why is this not working for me here? All right, hold on. Here we go. Player premium stats. NFL player grades. Did it not sign me in? I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, my PFF is not sign-in is not working for some reason right now. Sorry about that. But I think Jacoby Brissett finished in the top 10. So, in the end, the Browns have a lot of work to do this offseason. There's a lot of upgrades that need to be made. There's big decisions in terms of the salary cap that the Browns have to deal with for the first time in a while. It feels like the Browns are far away. For all the criticism and complaints of the last 20 minutes, I actually don't think the Browns are that far away from being a contender. But like I said earlier, it's all about Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson gets back to the quarterback we saw in Houston in his 4 years there, started through 2020, was it? Was that his last year playing? Yeah. If we see that quarterback, no. Yeah, 2020. If we see that quarterback again, well, then the Browns should be in the mix next year. If that quarterback never comes back, it's all over. Pack it up, go home. I hate to be that pessimistic, and I'm not really that pessimistic because I don't think that's going to be the case. But I think you got to be prepared for that small pie, but you can't be prepared. If he's never the same quarterback, the trade's a disaster. But in the end, the Browns had no choice. Baker Mayfield is not a very good quarterback. He had a nice rookie season, a terrible sophomore year, a nice back end of his third season, won that first playoff game. Kudos to him. He was terrible last year. He was terrible this year. All these ideas that Sean McVay was going to fix him didn't happen. In fairness, it was only 5 games. Maybe another year McVay will get better. Even I didn't think Baker would be this bad this year, but the Browns had no choice. You had no chance to win with Baker. You had to get a top 10 quarterback. The only opportunity was Deshaun Watson, unless you got something right in the draft, which the Browns have never done. So you went after Watson. You went all in. It didn't work this first year due to suspension and ineffective play. Will it work next year? It better. It's got to. But the Browns need to do more around him, and they got to be. The Browns have done a bad job with their mid-range draft picks for the most part. Overall, Andrew Berry gets a C grade to me through 3 years of drafting. He's got to be less loyal to the guys he drafts. If you get it wrong, move on. There's no reason for Anthony Schwartz to still be on this team next year. He can't play in the NFL. He's not any good. It's pretty obvious. The Browns blew it. That's something you could point to and say, maybe we relied on the numbers too much with this guy. it's time to move on. The Browns got to get out of their own way a little bit. They've got to find somebody who knows how to analyze defensive players, especially in the front seven. The Browns, a lot of people say, well, the Browns haven't addressed the front seven. Well, they have. They've just addressed it poorly. Clowney, get out. You don't want to be here. Get out. The Browns need a full culture change, and I don't know if you could do that with the same coach. I think it's going to be hard. I think Stefanski, from what I've heard, I shouldn't say from what I've heard. From what I've heard secondhand, I'll say, that he probably lost some credibility in the locker room by letting Joe Woods be here the whole year. It was a big mistake. Now, ultimately, was it his say? I don't know. I think it was, but I'm not sure. But the fact that you fired him 10 seconds after the season ended said that decision's been made a while. So why did you not fire him beforehand? That goes to the accountability. If we're going to talk about smart, tough, and accountable, which this team shows no signs of, well, we got to show that in the front office and the coaching staff as well. Because Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and Paul DePodesta, they may be book smart and number smart as hell, but they've not been football smart. And again, I'm not some Neanderthal anti-analytics guy. You know me, folks. I've been fighting the analytics fight for a long time, but these guys are not helping that fight. They haven't been smart. They haven't been tough. They haven't been accountable. They used those three words when they came in 3 years ago, and it's gone the wrong direction. They've become less smart, less tough, less accountable. It's really that simple. Take another break. We'll say goodbye after this to wrap things up right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Folks, got to talk to you about Built Bars. Looking for a delicious treat? How about one that's high in protein, has real chocolate, but is low in calories? You can't go wrong with a Built Bar. All kinds of great flavors, including churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. You could always get them at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart and Sam's Club as well. You can pick up a four-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate or coconut puffs from Walmart, or if you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with brownie batter and churro. You will thank me later. Built Bar, you got to try this. So now we spend the next 2 months getting ready. Free agency in 2 months. The draft in 3.5 months. And the Browns with a lot of work to do. The good news is, at least, that the other teams in this town are pretty good. The Cleveland Cavaliers are tied for third with the Bucks. I mean, they're behind them in winning percentage, but they're only 2.5 games out of the top spot in the Eastern Conference. Nice win over the Suns yesterday after the loss loss against the Nuggets. So the Cavs have now won 4 of their last 5. The Cavs getting double digits from all 5 starters yesterday. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland had 22 apiece. Jared Allen with a nice game, 13, 12, and 5 assists. And a good game from Evan Mobley as well, 14 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. Cavs with 4 players with at least 5 assists. They had 29 assists on 45 field goals. They shot poorly from the line yesterday. But besides that, a lot of good things in the game. And the Cavs take care of business 112-98. They'll be back in action tomorrow, I believe, right, at Utah? I think it's tomorrow, yeah. And the Guardian season will be here before you know it. Spring training gets going, pitchers and catchers, about 5-6 weeks, something like that, it'll be here. But now we start to turn the page to 2023, a miserable 2022. We'll talk more about it on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today. We'll be talking plenty about it in the offseason here on the podcast. Thanks for joining me as always. Check out my website, adamthebull.com. Check out my Twitter at adamthebull. Check out my Cameo at adamthebull. And make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We are less than 500 subscribers away from 20,000. The goal is to get there before the end of the month. So please please become a subscriber and maybe consider becoming a member as well. One other thing I wanted to mention, you may remember I did a contest here a few weeks back where I was giving away, I had to buy a Baker Mayfield Panthers jersey for something I said on the air. And a few weeks ago, I did it, or probably about a month ago at this point, did a contest, had people send me tweets telling me why I should send the Baker Mayfield jersey to them. And the guy who won was a guy named Jim Mitch. Jim went to Euclid High School. He lives in Aurora. And I had exchanged tweets with Jim before, big sports fan. And I liked what he had to say, and he wanted to give it to his wife. And so I picked Jim as the winner. About a week ago, I sent a direct message to Jim on Twitter, and I'll read it to you. Jim was a huge baseball fan, huge Guardians fan. And about a week ago, I sent Jim a direct message. I just wanted to make sure he got the jersey. That was on New Year's Day, actually. And I said, hey, Jim, wanted to make sure you got the jersey. And I sent a DM to him. And he said, thanks, Adam. I did, and many thanks. Made a nice gag gift for Christmas. Happy New Year's to you and your wife. May it be a great year for your wife and son. It was really nice of him to say. He seemed like a really nice guy. I didn't know him personally, but I exchanged tweets with him quite a bit. I said, good, thanks, and same to you and yours. He gave me a heart emoji, and that was, again, New Year's Day. Well, sadly, I got an email late last night that Jim had passed away. I'd heard nothing but good things about Jim. I tweeted out his obituary earlier today, so if you want to learn more about Jim, please check out my tweet from this morning. Condolences to his family. It was unexpected. He was 50 or about to turn 50. He was born in 63. So he was going to turn 50 this year. It's very sad. Whether you feel, I never met Jim in person, but, you feel like you know somebody and somebody dies at 50 or just about to turn 50. I'm sorry, 60. He was born in 63. Not 50, 60. And that's just very sad. Very sad. So condolences to his family. I hope for the best for them. It's heartbreaking. On a much lighter note, I hope you all have a good day, and please make sure you watch the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today. It's going to be pretty feisty from 11 to 1. We'll see you then right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See you, everybody.